guys, and welcome back to Reading Club. So today I'm going to read you Daisy and the Trouble with Kittens, Chapter 6 to Chapter 10. Chapter 6. The trouble with arriving at airports is it's really hard not to jump up and down, even if you've got your seatbelt on. Arriving at airports is so exciting. All the buildings are big and square and made out of concrete, and all the lights are really bright. Plus, there are absolutely loads of people everywhere. Plus, if you look up in the sky, you can see actual planes coming in to land and other ones that are taking off. You should see how big aeroplanes look when they're close up. I thought one was going to land on our head. When we got out of our taxi, there were people pushing trolleys into the airports and people pushing trolleys out of the airport all over the place. All the people going in had long trousers on, but some of the people coming out were wearing shorts and flip-flops, and they had suntans and everything. Mom said the people coming out of the airport had been on their holidays, and the people going in were about to start their holidays, just like us. After Mom had paid the taxi man, we went and got a trolley all of our own. The trouble with trolleys all of your own is they make you want to have a ride on them. Mom said you aren't really meant to ride on trolleys at the airport in case you fall off, but once we put our suitcases on, she let me climb on top. It was brilliant. Then guess what we had to do? We had to go through some really big turning doors. Not normal doors like you get at home, but great big ones that turned round and round like a roundabout. It was so much fun. Mom and me went around in circles 3 times before we went in. And then guess what? We had to go along a really long piece of floor that actually moved. It was just like moving carpet, except it wasn't made of carpet. It was black like rubber. Anyway, you didn't have to walk on it or anything. All you had to do was stand on it, and it carried you all the way inside. I'd never seen inside an airport before. It was amazing. I'd never seen so many people before either, or trolleys, or suitcases, or queues. There were queues everywhere, really long ones too. It took us ages to get our passports looked at, and ages to get our suitcases weighed, and ages to get our tickets from the lady, but I didn't care. We were in an actual airport going to actual Spain on an actual summer holiday for 7 whole actual days. I'd have queued for 100 years to do that. I don't think Mom would have, though. That's the trouble with queues. You have to be quite small to enjoy them. It's the same with airport floors. The trouble with airport floors is they make you want to do skids. Once we'd done all our queuing, I just had to do some big skids. Mom said I shouldn't do skids in airports because I might knock someone over or crash into a trolley, but I couldn't stop myself. One skid I did went about 5 meters. That was a standing up skid. Another one I did went about 7.5 meters. That was a skidding on my knees skid. But then the next skid I did went straight into a man carrying a cup of coffee. It didn't go very far on that one, but his coffee did. His coffee went about 11 meters all over the floor and down his shirt. That's the trouble with people who drink coffee. They're always drinking it where children need to do skids. So I had to stop doing skids after that, and I had to say sorry. Plus, my mom had to buy the man another coffee, but not another shirt. She did offer to buy him another shirt, but the man said he would be fine when he had dried out. And anyway, it serves him right really for not looking where he was going. Chapter 7. The trouble with X-ray machines is people aren't allowed to lie down and go through them. I wanted my mom to lie down and go through the X-ray machine. That way, I would have been able to see her being a skeleton. That's what X-ray machines do. You see right through the outside of things and show you all the bits on the inside. Mom said we were only allowed to put our bags and jackets and shoes through the X-ray machines. But the trouble with bags and jackets and shoes is they don't have skeletons in the middle, which means they're not as good. Once we'd put our bags on the X-ray machine, we had to walk through a special rectangle that beeped if you were carrying daggers or machine guns or swords or key rings with monkeys on. When I went beep, I thought I was going to be arrested and sent to prison or something. But when the X-ray man found my key ring in my pocket, he let me go free. Which is lucky really, because prison is nowhere near as good as Spain. After I'd stopped sleeping, my mom made me put my monkey keyring in my rucksack, and then we went to the airport shops. I couldn't wait to spend my holiday money. The trouble with airport shops is most of them don't have scuba gear in them. Or small yachts. Mom said that if I saw anything else in the shop that I wanted to spend my holiday money on, I should let her know. But I couldn't see any harpoon guns or jet skis or ice creams with bubble gums in them either. I did see a strawberry cornetto that looked quite nice, but Mom said I wasn't allowed ice cream at 6 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't allowed an underwater wristwatch either, or a basketball net. In the end, I decided to save my holiday money until I got to Spain, which was lucky really, because I didn't know at the time that I would need it for the kittens. The trouble with seats in airport lounges is when you try and lie across 3 seats at once, the gaps in between makes you feel all uncomfortable. Mom said I should sit up nicely and listen for our plane to be announced. But other people were lying all over the seats, and they were grown-ups. One man with knots in his hair and a giant rucksack was lying across about 6 seats. So I didn't see why I couldn't. Except I thought I'd fall through the gaps, so I did sit up in the end. The trouble with airport announcers is they always say the wrong plane. Loads of planes were taking off all the time to loads of holidays all over the world. But none of the announcements were for me and Mom. That's the trouble with announcements. They should do the Spain ones first. Mom told me that our flight number was MLJ452, and that as soon as our plane had been cleaned and tidied and filled up with petrol, then there would be an announcement for us to get on our plane too. I said I didn't mind going to Spain in a dirty plane or one that didn't have much petrol in it, but Mom said that wasn't a very good idea. So we waited and waited and waited. Until just when I thought it would never ever happen, it did. The lady doing the announcements actually announced our actual plane to actual Spain. "Time to go, Daisy," said Mom. "We need to go to gate 53. Gate 53 is where our plane will be taking off from soon." The trouble with gate 53s is they feel like they're about 53 miles from the airport. Mom said it was nothing like 53 miles away, but it felt like ever such a long walk to me. That's the trouble with small legs. They start to ache much earlier than longer ones, especially if you're carrying a rucksack. Except that's when I realized I wasn't. I wasn't carrying my rucksack at all. I'd left my rucksack under the seat in the airport lounge. The trouble with leaving rucksacks under seats in airport lounges is you're not allowed to do it. We ran and ran and ran all the way back to the lounge, but when we got to our seat, there were about 5 policemen moving people away from my school bag. At first, I thought someone had tried to steal my monkey keyring, but then Mom went really red and said that the policemen were checking inside my school bag for a bomb. The trouble with bombs is they can blow up, so I would never ever put one in my school bag. Plus, I don't know where to buy bombs. Mom knew that because she's my mom, but the policeman hadn't met me before, so she had to tell them, which made her go even redder than red. At first, the policeman did loads of frowns at her. Then, before they gave me my rucksack back, they checked my mom for bombs too, in front of loads and loads of people. Mom said she'd never been so embarrassed in her life, which is probably true. Then there was another announcement, except this time it didn't say the name of our airplane. It said our names instead, in big loud words right across the airport. Quick, Daisy, said Mom. It's our last call. Run as fast as you can or we're going to miss our plane. The trouble with missing your plane is it means you'll miss your holiday too. So we had to run all the way. The trouble with running all the way to gate 53 is it makes your legs ache even more. Plus, it makes your face all hot and red and your back all sticky. By the time we got there, my mom could hardly speak. She was so out of breath. Plus, her face was a new kind of red I've never, ever seen before. Don't ever leave a bag untied in an airport again, Daisy, was all she could manage to say. I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. Well, that's all I could say back. Chapter 8. The trouble with aeroplanes is all the seats should be by the windows. If all the seats in airplanes were by the windows, then everyone could look out. Mom said she didn't mind not looking out of the window because she looked at an airplane window before, but I think putting seats in the middle of an airplane is silly. Before we put our seatbelts on, we had to put our bags in a high-up cupboard above our seats. Mom said that it was called an overhead locker and that once the plane had taken off, she would get my things out of my rucksack to play with. Then we had to put our seatbelts on. The trouble with seatbelts is you're not allowed to keep unclipping them and then doing them up again. And then unclipping them and doing them up again. I got really good at undoing and doing up my seatbelts, but then I got frowned at by an airplane lady. Then my mom said the plane wouldn't take off if I didn't leave my seatbelt alone. So I had to just do it up and not unclip it after that. When we took off, my tummy went all funny. That's the trouble with planes taking off. They go so fast, your tummy can't keep up. At first, I nearly didn't look out of the window, but when I did, it was brilliant. Everything on the ground had gone really small. All the cars on the roads looked like teeny toy ones, and all the trees and fields looked like tiny broccolis inside little green squares. Mom said the higher we got, the smaller everything would look. And she was right, because then we went even higher. We went right up into the air above the actual clouds. Real actual clouds. Great, big, fat, fluffy ones that looked like great, big, fat oodles and oodles of white, fluffy cotton wool. I wanted to get out of the plane and bounce about on them, but Mom said no one was allowed outside during the journey. And anyway, we still had to keep our seatbelts on. That's the trouble with seatbelts. If you take them off before you're allowed to, the airplane lady will come and tell you off. When we were allowed to undo our seatbelts, the captain driving the plane did an announcement. He said that we would soon be cruising at 3,007,000 feet, and that a little bit later we were going to be given breakfast to eat, plus teas and coffees. Then I decided I needed my pad and pencil case. The trouble with needing a pad and pencil case when they're in an overhead locker is your mom has to undo her seatbelt, get up, squeeze past the person she's sitting next to, reach up to the overhead cupboard, and take the pad and pencil case out of your bag to give it to you. The trouble with needing a comic just after you needed a pad and pencil case is then your mom has to do it all over again. Then I needed my giraffe, and then I needed my monkey keyring, which made her a little bit cross, and the person she was sitting next to a bit huffy and puffy. So in the end, Mom took my whole rucksack down from the overhead locker, gave it to me, and told me to keep it under the seat in front of me. So I did. But then I needed to go to the loo. The trouble with loos on airplanes is they are a bit small. My loo at home has a bath in it and everything. The one in our airplane didn't even have a shower or even a rubber duck. Plus, when I was sitting on the loo seat, my ears began to feel all shushy. When I came out of the loo, my mom said that because we were so high up in the sky, the air pressure in our ears could begin to feel different. Then she told me to pinch my nose and swallow. The trouble with pinching your nose and swallowing is it makes your ears go funny. At first, I didn't know what my ears were doing. They just felt wiggly inside, and then everything went all loud. Mom said it was called popping, but I didn't really like it. I preferred not popping, or still shushy. When we got back to our seats, I got my pads and pencils out of my bag and back to do some drawing. Draw an airplane, said Mom. Draw a Spanish airplane, which was quite a good idea. Except by then, I'd worked out how to play with the tray in my seat. The trouble with airplane trays when they're right in front of you is they really make you want to lower them and then push them up again. And then lower them and push them up again. And lower them and push them up again. And lower them and push them up again because it's really good fun. Trouble is, the man sitting in the seat in front of me didn't know how to work his tray. So he got all jealous and huffy and puffy and kept turning around to frown on me. So Mom said I had better put my tray up and leave it up. But I couldn't because our breakfast had arrived. Chapter 9. The trouble with breakfasts on aeroplanes is they don't do Cocoa Pops. They do a sort of sausage and sort of bacon with sort of baked beans and with sort of potatoes in a white plastic tray instead. At first, I didn't know what sort of breakfast it would be because I couldn't get the foil lid off, but when my mom pulled it off for me, I could see it wasn't Cocoa Pops. So I just had my bread roll and orange juice instead. Mom said that they probably wouldn't have Cocoa Pops in Spain either, and that not having Cocoa Pops on the plane would be good practice for not having Cocoa Pops in the hotel. And she was right. Our hotel in Spain didn't do Cocoa Pops either, but they did do Rice Krispies, and they did kittens. Not for breakfast, just for stroking. You should never put milk on kittens. It's alright to put milk in their saucer for them to drink, but you mustn't pour it actually on them, or sprinkle sugar on them. Pouring milk or sparkling sugar on kittens isn't allowed in Spain, or any countries in the world. Otherwise, you'll go to prison. But stroking them is definitely alright, and cuddling them. But playing with them is even better. If you ask me, playing with kittens is one of the best things you can do in the world. Honestly, if I knew there were going to be kittens at our hotel in Spain, I wouldn't have put any toys in my rucksack to play with at all, not even my monkey keyring. I mean, who needs toys and teddies and keyrings and coloring pens and pads in your rucksack when you've got kittens to play with? No one, that's true. Still, at least the things in my rucksack gave me something to do on the plane. I was going to play Ice Paella with Mom. Ice Paella is a new Spanish I Spy game I have invented, but the trouble was, by the time I had drawn a Spanish airplane and some Spanish clouds and some really, really high, Spanish seagulls, my mom had fallen asleep and started snoring again. Then she started dribbling again, which I'm not sure is allowed on planes. Luckily, the airplane lady who gave us our breakfast didn't see the dribble, or she might have told the captain. And then the captain might have told everyone in the plane in an announcement. This is your captain speaking. We have a dribble alert in seat 14B. Please be careful that you didn't get dribbled on when you walk past seat 14B because the lady who is snoring next to the little girl in seat 14A is dribbling all over the place. Or something like that. That's the trouble with dribble alerts. They can be really embarrassing, especially if you're not allowed to jump off the plane. Which you're definitely not, unless you've got a parachute. So I just stayed quiet in my seat, played with my toys, and colored with my coloring pens while my mom dribbled. All the way to Spain. Chapter 10. The trouble with airports in Spain is they're a bit like the ones in England, only hotter. By the time we got off the plane and onto a bus and driven to the airport building and given our passports to a grumpy Spanish man who never smiles, and then waited for our suitcases to come out, and then found a trolley, and then lifted my rucksack onto the trolley, and then gone back to try and find Nanny and Grampy's squeaky wheel, my face was really bowling. That's the trouble with sunshine in Spain. It can burn straight through whole buildings and coaches. The coach that drove us to our hotel after we'd left the airport was even hotter. Mom said the air conditioning on the coach didn't have been working and that if we were going to have a holiday in Spain, then we would just have to get used to hot temperatures. If you ask me, my mom was really pleased it was so hot in Spain. Being hot in Spain makes the dribble on your shoulder dry up much, much quicker. It was far too hot in the coach for me, though. Sitting on that coach was like being a jacket potato in a microwave. No, it was like being a chicken nugget in a red-hot oven. Actually, it was like being a crispy sausage that's fallen through the gap onto the barbecue coils and then had loads more red-hot coils and some burning mustard put on top. Anyway, that's probably why I fainted. Mom said I didn't faint. I fell asleep. But I definitely didn't. Even if she said I did. And I definitely didn't do any snoring. Even if she said I did. And I definitely didn't do any dribbling. Even Mom said I didn't do any dribbling. Anyway, boy was I pleased when we arrived at our hotel. And double boy was I excited when we got our suitcases off the coach and carried them inside. You should have seen how Spanish everything was inside the hotel. Everywhere I looked, there were Spanish things all over the place. There were Spanish people with Spanish name badges. There were great big Spanish pots with blue and white patterns on them. And massive posters of Spanish ladies doing Spanish dancing on the wall. Plus, there was a great big Spanish floor that you could do Spanish skids on. Plus, there were actual plants with lemons growing on them in actual Spanish. And you'll just never guess what else there was. Growing out of the actual ground inside the actual hotel, you'll just never guess. Real, actual palm trees. Right up close to where we were actually standing, and over by the window, and over by all the other windows too. There were real, actual Spanish palm trees all over the place. I reckon someone must have picked all the coconuts because I couldn't see any, but all the other palm tree bits were there. Great big trunks and great big palm tree leaves growing inside our actual hotel. It was so exciting, I wanted to jump up and down and do skids and roly-polies all over the place. I wanted to do whoop-de-whoops and fiddle-de-lallas and be jumpier and skiddier than I'd ever been before in my whole life. And then I realized why. I've never been excited in Spanish before. Mom said I should remember that I was English and try and keep my whoop-de-doops and fiddle-de-dillas to a minimum. So I tried, but then I saw our room, and then I saw our balcony, and then I saw the pool. I could see the actual swimming pool from the actual balcony of our actual room. It had really blue water with people in it, plus a great big yellow slide. I've never put a swimming costume on so fast in my life. Well, that's the end of this channel. If you liked it, please click many likes and subscribe, reading club. I'll come back later with a new and improved channel. Bye, everybody.